Hello, we are Geeks Assembled, and it's Classic Doctor Who weekend. The guys here have gathered to talk about a 20th season Doctor Who story. As Susan is pointing out, yes, it's the Fifth Doctor, and there's the man of there's the man of our dreams, shall we say, behind the Fifth Doctor, Nicholas Courtney, playing the Brigadier. Yes, we are talking Mawdryn Undead. So this four-parter was broadcast in 1983 in the 20th season. John Nathan Turner promised the fans a season full of old villains. And for me personally, this season was a bit disappointing because we got Omega, the Mara, the Black Guardian for 3 stories, and the Master. And that was the old villains. Can't have everything, but this one, was the first one for the Black Guardian to return since the end of the Armageddon Factor in 1978, I think it was.
Yeah, during right after the Key of Time.
Yeah, it appeared in the last episode, played by the same actor, Valentine
Dial.
Yeah. So we're going to go around these guys, ask for the opening thoughts on Mawdryn Undead. Shall we go to Brian first for his opening thoughts on Mawdryn Undead? Hello, Brian. Earth calling Brian. Over to you.
Why did you have to pick me?
Because you were
You're the fountain of all knowledge, Brian.
And you love Peter Davison.
There you go.
Well done.
Something in common with Lee.
So,
Okay.
Brian.
Well, with this Doctor Who story, I thought that this story was a bit different and a bit underrated.
What do you mean by different then, Brian?
I mean, it didn't really seem like that much of a Doctor Who story to me. So,
Right.
I mean, other than having the Davidson and his crew with the Brigadier, the story it really didn't seem to fit that well, and not really much of a good story.
Yeah.
How does it not feel like Doctor Who?
Well,
Disagree.
I mean, for one, having the Black Guardian and everything, I don't feel like he's that much of a particularly good villain for a story, or even Doctor Who.
But are you comparing this type of story to modern day Doctor Who, where it's more fast?
I think maybe Black Guardian would probably work for New Who, other than Classic Who, because maybe like Chimno or even like Russell T or whoever would be in charge, like maybe make him much bigger of a threat than he actually intended within this story. So I thought he was a bit not really big within a threat within the story, and not really much of a big deal within within Classic Who here.
What do you think of his costume?
Yeah, but he's not the main villain in this. He's not the main villain, and there is no real main villain.
That's true, but that's what I'm mostly. That's mostly why what I'm getting at. I think he would do better as a main villain, as a big major threat of a villain.
As the Black Guardian says in the story, he cannot be seen to be involved. He cannot dirty his hands with the action.
I know. It seemed.
He is an influencer of the evil.
There
I
isn't
know-
really a villain because it's about these people who wanted to become Time Lords and extend their lives, and then they want to die, so they want to take the Doctor's regeneration so they can die. So there isn't really a villain because they're not really villains. in a
Oh,
sense.
I disagree. I think Turlo is the
I mean,
is
even-
the
but- yeah.
villain.
Yeah, but
Sorry,
he's not gonna-
you guys are missing the villain. The villain
I
is
mean, even
Turlo.
from what Susan pointed out, like with the costume, to me, I think the Black Guardian looked like a bird with the costume.
Well, stating the bleeding obvious there. Would it be because he had a bed on his head?
Yeah.
Well, not just
Right.
that, not just like that, but like his whole costume looked like Big Bird, like a black Big Bird to me.
He
No,
was
it didn't.
uh,
It's meant to be a crow, isn't it?
Yeah, it's meant to be a
But
crow,
it's a crow. It's like,
not a goth version
Or
of
a raven.
Sesame
I
Street.
think it was a raven, to be honest. But,
Oh, Raven, yeah.
right.
Edgar Allan Poe.
That's it, a Raven. Yeah, it's like one the Tower of London, isn't it? Yeah.
No, the white
I
guardian
know.
had a dove.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing that killed Clara.
Oh, shut up! I didn't like that.
No, the Black Guardian came back and killed Clara.
Well, the black guardian is good for something then.
Yeah, but then Clara became immortal.
And I mean,
And that just ruined the story.
I mean, with this story, another thing I didn't really particularly like was the whole situation with the Brigadier.
Well, we might go into in depth on this one. We'll move on from you now, Brian. That's your opening thought on this. Alid, what's your opening thought on this?
I like this one. I like the concept of it, but I don't think it's executed particularly great. But I have to say, I can watch all 4 parts and be entertained and keep watching. And I think it's carried because Nicholas Courtney's fantastic. The acting is great. But I do think the Brigadier myself, you can tell he wasn't meant to be there originally.
True.
I think it would have worked better as William Russell, who was meant to play the part. And I know we're probably going to get onto that. But
Ian.
I do think, even though I really like his acting and he's really great, I don't think it should have been the Brigadier. But I do like the concept of the story about these people who wanted to become Time Lords to extend their life, and then they get a disease, and then the brain's coming out of their head, and they want to die. They want the Doctor's energy to die. And I think that's a really good concept. And I like the fact that you've got it in 2 different time zones. It's a bit like Moffat's Doctor Who in a way. But the story is quite... The episode is good. The story is a bit all over the place, I think, personally. But it's enjoyable. And Turlo, I like Turlo. I think Turlo's good. But when he has that car crash, he hasn't even got mud on his jacket or anything. He's just lying there. And then the nurse says, "Oh, you look better than your jacket does," as in... And it's like... But he was lying on the ground next to the car, like, without even a graze on him. It's like, yeah, they could have muddied him up a bit, you know what I mean? Added a few scratches and scars and...
Well, yeah, but with the jacket and that lot, they couldn't really mess that up and rip it because he wore that for the next 2 years. And
that's the problem. Yeah,
he had one jacket.
yeah.
Well, I must say, I don't really like Toro to begin with.
He grows
Well,
on you.
the problem is the concept of Turlo doesn't work, really, because he's not going to kill the Doctor. It's an empty threat. Like each time the Black Guardian says, kill him now, and he's got the rock or whatever, and it's like, he's not going to kill him.
I mean, it took me quite some time, like maybe a couple stories later, to like actually like him. But the rest of most of the time, with a few stories before that, it just seemed seemed a bit off.
Oh, and that nerd at the beginning was a bit annoying. Did anybody find the music with the car funny?
Quite.
Yeah,
Little chime with the car. I always found that it's quite comical, isn't it?
And the car, I like to think of the car like Benton sold him the car, so that's why he fucking loved it, because Benton fucking sold him the car.
maybe so. Maybe so. Well, as soon as
Let's go to Alex and Susan now.
Hold on a minute. Let's go to Alex and Susan.
Alan is your co-host.
I know Susan's desperate to talk about a certain character in this.
Who's that then?
Nissa.
Nissa.
Allow me to pontificate about the greatness of the Brigadier again and again and again. And I know that these podcasts are not just about Nicholas Courtney. I remember, Lee, I know you told me that, but you know, they really are in so many ways, just entirely like everything about Classic Who and everything about British television and the Big Finish audios is all about Nicholas Courtney in some way or another. It all relates, and
I don't know
the important thing to realize is that Nicholas Courtney came in with a script that was written for William Russell, aka Ian Chesterton, and you know that was he had a big process to re-script it for himself. They really allowed him to do that. They allowed him to do that in the Five Doctors. They allowed him to do that in the Three Doctors. They allowed him to rewrite his own lines and allowed him ad-lib abilities because, you know, they trusted him. They completely trusted him. And when he went to into this Mawdryn Undead, he'd been away for a while. And so, you know, that was kind of like a great homecoming. So that gave them the opportunity to show a flashback of his time, and it also gave a new dimension to the Blinovitch limitation effect, where two people, one from one time zone, one timeline, one actual year, and someone from the same person from a future or past year touch, it causes sort of a lot of energy to be released, temporal energy, I assume, because it isn't really Artron or Huon or any of those other sort of particulate energies. It's when he touches himself, he becomes an explosive force, and so.
Can I just say, I must have missed that bit of the episode.
Touched himself.
I don't know what version Susan
When
was.
they touch hands.
Oh, they touch. Oh, okay, all right. I know what you're talking about. Now.
Okay,
Okay, all right. We're safe. I thought Susan did enter her own scene then.
This is what you get with a super fan.
It's called fan fiction.
Yes. So anyway, I really enjoyed watching, you know, this episode because it is basically a story of two brigadiers, and of one that is kind of a broken brigadier with a mental illness issue and some residual effects of this explosion, this Blinovitch limitation effect. And those things include some difficulties, so that, you know, in the course of educating students, he had some like hang-ups and things like that. It was amazing, and it was also the story of Tegan actually like making a huge presence and helping the Brigadier. So in terms of this, I really enjoy that part. It is timey-wimey to use the modern vernacular, and it is quite beautiful and stuff, and yeah, and Turlo is a bit like Harry Potter, a kid out of place and out of time in a British public school with a bunch of villains and a big guy in a black cloak trying to chase him down or ruin his life. So in that respect, Turlo's like Harry Potter, but not in a good way, in a really sort of devilish way. Anyway, that's my bit. Here's Alex.
Okay, well, I'm not sure what that was. Unfortunately, the classic Doctor Who suffers from limited special effects. The pacing can be off. Not so much in this one. And yeah, it doesn't exactly wear well. They brought back the Black Guardian, but you won't see the White Guardian for, 5 or 6 stories? When they go to the episode Enlightenment, then you'll see the White Guardian again. Of course, they didn't check with the original creator. They didn't check with the original producer. It was an idea, but the execution wasn't good, unfortunately. It is an idea to have a companion that isn't totally, serving the Doctor, that has an ulterior motive and all that. Tegan actually does do more for the story, even though she is still a little grouchy. Nyssa really doesn't do anything, unfortunately, except scream, for the most part. The idea of giving them a...
Oh.
Brian. And she doesn't scream like that anyway. So anyhow, it's an idea. They should have worked on it. They should have done it better. The Mawdryn, unfortunately, aren't really described too well. So that, if it wasn't for the guy sort of stowing away on the TARDIS, it's interesting that the brain is outside his skull a little bit, or outside his head a little bit. But they didn't really explain the story, so it's a really nice attempt, and it's a really nice flashback. But unfortunately, it kind of hurt Doctor Who a little bit, because then it started going back into this flashback of the 5th Doctor, this flashback of the 6th Doctor. And it just, unfortunately, it doesn't wear well. I understand what they were trying to do. I think they probably should have had it 3 parts, or they should have worked on it more and cut it down to 2 parts. And I think that would have been better. But again, that's one of the good sides and bad sides about Doctor Who, is that they do come up with good villains, but they either use them too little or too much. They have great characters, but they don't know how to balance them. The special effects aren't great, but they do have good story ideas, and they do have strong characters, and they do a lot with the little budget that they have. So that sort of encapsulates it. The story isn't bad, but it's not very good. So it's a little sort of half and half.
I just want to say, I thought it being 4 parts was fine.
Could have been a little shorter, I think.
No,
Maybe
I think
3
4
parts.
parts was all right.
But
I didn't feel like it dragged or anything.
Well, like I said, then you have the other issue about the time zones as well, which that's a little that's a little hard in a way to to sort of, and they didn't have the special effects like they do now.
And it doesn't work with Unit's timeline or anything like that.
No, but that's the Unit dating controversy. Part 6 or something. It's not.
They've got it on the special features, I think, haven't they? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not contiguous with any timeline, but that doesn't really matter.
No, it doesn't. But it sort of did botch up the Unit timeline, seeing as Sarah Jane was in 1980.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Brigadier retired in 1977. Yeah, it's a bit, yeah. But we'll move on.
But that is like
Yeah.
like
Have you got that part? Are you able to follow along? Not you guys. I'm saying. No, I've shown. Excuse me. I'm kidding. I'm thinking outside the box.
I know
Especially the video box, which we have here. I've shown this to people, and they've kind of gone, yeah, I can kind of see what they're doing here, but they didn't like the execution. They kind of went, almost. You know what I mean? It's kind of didn't quite get there.
Anyways, Alex, get back in the box. Ethan, over to you.
Yeah, I haven't seen this story for ages, but I do remember watching it, and I remember I did. It was one of those ones where I liked it. It is a good concept, as Alan pointed out. I mean, I remember I liked the concept. That is something I'd like. Is these people? What if they discover Time Lords and go, oh, we want that power, but it all just backfires on them and just, destroys them, and they just become who they are, the Mawdryn, and try and steal the Doctor's lives so they can die. I mean, it is a good concept. It probably could have been delivered a little better. That's all I will say. It could have been delivered a little better, but the acting's great. And of course, you've got Mark Strickson introduced as Turlough, who I did like. I liked him as a companion. He was a good character. And you've got Valentine Dial. Is that how you pronounce his name? Valentine Dial back as the Black Guardian. Again, another guy I like. I always quite like the Black Guardian. He was an interesting character. Quite menacing looking, like with the feathers and the raven look and stuff. He always had a pretty cool look. And of course, Brigadier. Nicholas Courtney plays the Brigadier really good in this. I could see where Alan's coming from. It probably might have been a little better with the other character, but it was still a good story. The acting was really good. And
so how do you think he did with the broken Brigadier there, Ethan?
From what I remember, he did it very well. I think he did all right. He just plays them both really well. I thought it was a pretty easy story to follow, really. I mean, it was an interesting one, but the one problem, as I've just said, probably could have been executed a little bit better, but it's a good concept. And it is entertaining. That's all I want, good concept, entertainment, and that's good enough for me. And so, yeah, that's probably my opening thoughts on it.
Ethan is easily pleased.
Well, he does like Sonic.
Yes, that's true. Right. Oh, dear. Let's see. Fifth Doctor, Peter Davison. This is the period in my life where I first fell out of love with Doctor Who. Because I found the change in style for the season, the Peter Davison's first season and this season, was too drastic. It was too, and I've said it many times, bland. For me,
well, that started under Tom Baker.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Tom Baker's season wasn't that good, but it was JNT again. Because I always call him the bland Doctor, the beige Doctor in his beige coat. But I do like his last season. Pete Davidson's last season was awesome. He's brilliant in the Big Finish audios because he's got better scripts, better stories. But for me, this season was hit and miss. And this story, it's watchable. 4 parts. It's long enough. The 4 parts is ideal. Nicholas Courtney playing 2 Brigadiers. Yeah, he did a great job. Seeing as he hadn't played him for so many years. But I do agree. I think it would have been better if William Russell was available at the time to bring Ian Chesterton back. Nothing against Nicholas Courtney, but I think the story would have suited William Russell's character a little bit better. Yes, it does cock up the unit timeline, but people have just glossed over that. Like it's one of those things. Taylor, it introduces Taylor. I think he's a brilliant character. Him and Tegan, just brilliant characters. Yes, Alex.
He did actually help introduce the Crocodile Hunter in real life.
Oh yeah, he's when he moved to Australia, he became a producer and director.
Yeah,
of,
Steve Irwin. Yeah.
For nature programs. Taylor is a brilliant character, and it was a bit of a breath of fresh air when he arrived. See, I've lost track now. What was I saying? Yeah, Black Guardian as well. Yeah, brilliant usage of the Black Guardian, seeing as he hasn't been there for years and years. Same actor, but for me, the story, it was. I don't know. It's watchable, but the story just isn't. It's not melded right.
But would you agree that the concept is good?
The concept is
the
good.
idea is good.
Of these people wanting to become Time Lords, but then they realise they've made their mistake and
backfires on them. Yeah.
There is, as you said, there is no villain in this. And David Collins, who plays Mawdryn, is an excellent actor, and he's been in Doctor Who many times before. He's been in Revenge of the Cybermen, Robots of Death, and he could have been the Doctor at one point. I remember, I think he might have been offered the part at one point, but he didn't take it. He has played the Doctor in the audios in the Unbound series.
He would have made a good Doctor, I think.
He's more famous for playing Silver in Sapphire and Steel, but
yes.
But that Mawdryn character, that for me, in the 4-part story, was one of the best cliffhangers where he turns around and this, the brain, the spaghetti in his head, and wearing old Tom's coat. That cliffhanger there, where he turns around to the screen. That was good, but I don't know. There's something about it. I mean, the design of the spaceship was, I don't know, that was off. It didn't match. It didn't go with the story, I don't think.
But I thought the sets looked great.
They look great.
The sets looked great, yeah.
If it's a futuristic, high-tech race, why are you having...
It reminded me a bit of Colin Baker's, the Dalek episode.
I mean, why have Art Deco? Instead, it should be high-tech. It should be... It just didn't seem right.
But I thought the whole episode did look good.
It did, yeah.
There was a lot of location. The sets looked, they weren't wobbly, were they? They weren't, they looked pretty.
And also, I don't know, people argue that is 3 companions too many. I know Doctor Who started with 3 back in the day, but I think Davison's era did suffer with too many companions. As it's been mentioned, Nyssa didn't really do much in this, because it was mainly down to Tegan, going back into 1977 with the other brig. It was Taylor's introduction story. Nyssa is just left to look intelligent, and that's it, really. So, I don't know. It didn't drag, as it does. Ali has said, it doesn't drag, but it just, for me, the story doesn't connect well. But the acting, you can't fault the acting. So, any favourite moments or things you didn't like?
Yeah, one of my favourite moments is the way the Mawdryn people walk. The way they walk.
Right.
Yeah, they're quite funny when they walk, aren't they?
I don't know if I might be wrong, but I think they were dancers.
Yeah, I think they were. Yeah, I remember watching the commentary, I think, a long time ago.
And it's not Mawdryn people, though, because Mawdryn was just that one person.
Yeah, Mawdryn was the one guy. Yeah, I call them the Mawdryn people.
There was a name given to the race.
Don't recall.
And I like the flashback as well with the Brigadier. You know, where you see the Yeti, the Daleks.
I mean, if William Russell was available and Ian Chesterton did come back, just think of what flashbacks you could have had then.
Yeah.
Well, but then again, he wouldn't, you know, I mean, he wasn't around with the second, third, or fourth Doctor, so that doesn't help with the flashback tribute thing necessarily.
No. Yeah, but if it was William Russell there, it would have been his flashbacks. It would have
it'd
been
been a different flashback. Yeah.
I heard. No, like maybe they could have done more about the TARDIS or Daleks, but I mean, they didn't. No, they didn't. Did they have Cybermen? And no, that was later. That was at the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, but they had more.
He never came across a Cyberman.
They had cavemen, they had Daleks, they had the Vord. They had loads.
And of course, the other problem was that Nicholas Courtney was with the first Doctor, but not as a Brigadier. So, yeah, I mean, I like the flashback. I like the idea. It is a good concept. It's just that somehow along the line, it's tough too, because you want to tell it linear, but at the same point, you have so many characters and you have two Brigadiers from two different years. So I don't know if that is, you know, that's also convenient for the plot, that in a way he solves the problem. He solves the dilemma. I do like the idea of the Mawdryn. I did like the ship, actually. Like I said, there's a good idea there. There's a good idea of the Black Guardian. There's a good idea of an alien race trying to take the Doctor's ability. There's a good idea about having a companion that isn't, you know, really good necessarily. But you know, remember, this is also 4 parts as well. So some parts are going to drag, other parts are not. And then you have to stretch it, between 5 complete stories?
Yeah, but I do have a question. You know the set of the spaceship? Was it used for another production?
Oh, I'm probably was.
Because it looks like if it could be from another production, it could be used for something else.
Has it been used for something else?
Yeah, because they used to do that, didn't they? Used to borrow stuff, other sets, yeah.
So
I'm thinking it was, because it looks too good to be Doctor Who at that point. Yeah.
You know what? It could have been from the Wogan chat show.
Yeah.
What aired in the early 80s when Terry Wogan used to do his chat show, because it did look like a set from that.
And those heads look like the ones from Art Attack. Do you remember Art Attack? The heads on the wall. They look like they're from that. Yeah.
So my favorite moment is the Brigadier flashback.
Oh, what
and my other favorite moment is the Blinovitch limitation effect.
Can I just bring that up a minute? Right, that effect, it was so drastically, you don't want to be in the same time, in place as the other person. It wasn't that bad, really, was it? What happened?
No.
It was all built up to say it's going to be disastrous. Could be the end of the world. Little white flash. He's unconscious on the floor. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But you know, what about the explosion? Sometimes, you know, the only one that gets any like real juice is that bang big enough for you, Brigadier, with the 4th Doctor and the Zygons. You know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, there's, you know, there are great effects, but they're not every single episode.
Yeah, I mean,
but the other thing that's really interesting about this is that stroll through the spaceship. You know, you could tell that none of the actors felt really like, oh, this is totally a wonderful place to be. They all kind of felt, oh, I don't know if I like this. I mean, it wasn't like, ooh, this opulence just makes me want to dance or sing or whatever. It's like, I don't know if I like this. Okay, so that's weird about the whole, you know.
Well, I mean, the other issue is
warp-ellipse spaceship.
Well, the other issue is it part? It's not part of the transmat. Then on top of that, they're under stress. Then you've got Mawdryn doing all his tricks and machinations. Then you've got 2 Brigadiers walking around, which that's another thing
They
that
don't
was.
look like they're happy to be.
They're not supposed to be happy, and they're
They
also.
are. If it's a beautiful ship, they should be like, oh hell yeah.
And they also have to do their lines. Anyway, the other thing that was interesting was the 1977 Brigadier, the mustached Brigadier, pushing Turlo around. I mean, I was like, what, is he going to punch him? I mean, what the heck? He was like,
Sure.
Get away from me, Turlo. I was like, whoa, that's a little violent, isn't it?
That's the Brigadier for you.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, and the geeky guy too. That was very, I was like, what is this? A parody of Upstairs Downstairs, or one of those Brightheads Revisited, something.
It was a little bit
like
cringy,
that.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was a little bit cringy. Just.
But Alan, I was making fun of it, going, oh, and Doctor Who is now on Top Gear, 1980s edition.
Well, yeah. What was his name? Hippo.
Hippo, yeah.
Hippo.
I was like, what is this? Jeeves of Worcester? We're gonna have Hugh Laurie coming in?
Right. So who haven't we been to? Ethan.
Well, it's actually, it was mentioned earlier, and it's a little stupid thing, but as you mentioned, that music bit of the car crash at the start, I don't know why. I do remember laughing at that bit. I would have taken it seriously, but that music just seemed out of place.
It looks so comical when that music is playing
comical.
over it. Yeah.
It doesn't help when, of course, he's just lying there, and it gets even more comical. Or your jacket looks worse than you.
It reminds me something out of Brum or something, when you can see Brum coming along to music. It's a bit like that. Yeah.
Brum meets Doctor Who.
Yeah.
What about the cast?
Brum.
Yeah, it's a kids program. It was about.
It's about a car.
in the UK.
We'll have to review it.
But going back to the car thing, when Taylor steals the car with Hippo in it, did you notice all the other guys just stood there watching?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm wondering if they did film it at a proper school and they were just said, "Stand over there, keep out the way," because they
Probably.
didn't.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, they're probably like, what's going on here? What's going on? Real.
It looked a bit out of place. That it just didn't look right.
The whole stealing of the car was a bit. It just didn't work, did it? Really, it just didn't fit.
They were trying to establish that Turlo was a badass.
Yeah, that he was bad. Yeah, but it just didn't. It just didn't work. It just didn't work. No.
But like I said, small but
and in the next
funny moment for me. It's been mentioned the flashback. I do like the flashbacks that they did. Actually, they were very nicely done.
Can't be a flashback.
Yeah, but as you mentioned, if they got the other guy, what that could have been really, really interesting.
Mm.
But those, I would say, those are my favorite moments.
Oh, cool. Right.
I mean, wouldn't it have been amazing, Ian Chesterton seeing a new version of the Doctor?
Yeah, who he hasn't seen.
Yeah.
For absolute yoinks, absolute years.
Well, the
Since
other
William Hartnell. Yeah.
That would have been great.
That would have been really interesting to see how he reacts. But I do think going
I'm
to
glad
Peter
their
Davison,
Brigadier was in it, though.
going to Peter Davison himself, though, he is the most human Doctor of them all. Out of all of them, he's the least alien.
Yeah.
And he's the one who will most likely stick his arm up a cow's backside.
He's totally a veterinarian in his other side.
But he's the least alien, isn't he? He's the least alien of them all.
I do agree with that. He was always the most human.
Yeah.
Comfortable as heck on a cricket field.
But I thought he was good in this.
Yeah.
Well,
He's not my favourite Doctor, but I thought he was good.
Well, the other thing that I've noticed people, when
Alex's favorite.
close to it.
Your favourite, Alex, is it?
I mean,
Close to it. Well, remember, this is before Matt Smith sort of did the same thing. The other criticism or praise that I've noticed is that they've said, isn't it funny how he does play it like a young guy, but also in an old body sometimes, or most of the time? or trying to
Peter
balance old
Davison does
versus
it.
young.
What are
Right.
you on about? Peter Davison does it.
Right, but I'm just
Davison
saying
doesn't.
other people that weren't fans of the show,
Yeah.
like they
Davison
didn't
doesn't play
like
it like he
Tegan's. Yeah, they didn't like Tegan's dialogue. A lot of people liked her, but they didn't like the dialogue, and then they thought that she was too argumentative. Nyssa, they said, "Wow, she doesn't have a lot to do, does she? She's sort of a fourth banana." Turlo, a lot of people didn't like.
What the hell does that mean?
Almost like nothing to do. Yeah, almost like nothing to do. That's the thing. I mean, it's kind of obvious too as you watch the era that they give Tegan like 8 outfits, where Nyssa is lucky if she gets 3.
Well, wait,
It's very strange.
Before
Yeah,
you
in a way.
interrupted, I think Ethan was going to say something else.
Sure, go ahead, Ethan.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say just I did like Peter Davison. He did some good stories, but his later ones were absolutely incredible. You know, that of the Dalek one with Davros and
Oh yeah,
Tegan can't take it anymore. I mean, the death count in that one. Christ knows how much was that one. Death count was huge. And then you've got Planet of Fire, which I thought was one of the best ones, and the Great Caves of Androzani. I mean, what a finale that one. But he was a good doctor, and you get to see him as a very human doctor. But yeah, I always did enjoy him. He was, not the best, but a good one. He was a good, kind one.
Yeah. Brian.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
He's still there. Okay.
Yeah. What's up?
Well, it's your time.
Yeah.
So what do you think of Spyfall Part 2, Brian? Give us your opening thoughts.
I haven't seen that yet, Howard, and that's not what we're talking about.
Okay. What are we talking about then?
Oh, he caught you there! Oh!
Well,
What is that?
I know. That's just one of my silly voices.
Okay.
Just my impression.
I'm slightly scared now. Brian, what's your favourite moments of Mawdryn Undead?
I mostly only have maybe 2. I normally do.
Go on then. Give us, fire away.
Don't copy me, okay?
Yeah, I normally have 3 most of the time with the reviews, but I can mostly only think of 3 of them. I mean, 2 rather. Sorry.
Okay, just give us 2 then.
Just tell us.
I know.
Before we end up on a cliffhanger.
Okay, my favorite bits of it is when. Well, my first one is from when the doctor bumps and realizes that it's the Brigadier, and he meets him for mostly the first time in a while. And the other bit is like when you get to see the memories of like he's trying to heal the Brigadier and everything, where he's that version of the Brigadier and everything.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks for that then, Brian.
Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart.
Gordon Lethbridge Stewart.
Yeah, Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart.
Yeah.
I don't
With
really.
his hand out. I mean, he came at the Brigadier with his hand out, like, I'm going to shake your hand. That was.
And who are you?
But I mean, I mean, with the Peter Davidson's Doctor though, I love all his stuff, whatever he's in as the Doctor. So
Have you watched Time Flight?
I have it on DVD.
And you like all his stuff?
Yeah.
Wow.
That says it all.
I don't believe you.
I got to see it on Blu-ray.
Oh,
He's got it on Blu-ray. Oh my God.
Quick, everybody hide. He's gone.
There we go.
Yeah. Don't see the point. I can stick to them a lot better.
Yeah, these
Blu-ray's better, Lee.
Anyways, anything else what anybody wants to say about Mawdryn Undead?
No.
No, I think we have really diluted this one. We've wrung it, and it's
Till it's dead.
till the
The other
Finally
scene that we didn't talk about is Tegan flying the TARDIS, and the other thing was Turlo, stowing away on board and kind of forcing his way in at the end.
I'll tell you as well, this TARDIS team, I think it only started with this one because I can't remember Tom Baker or Petrie or anybody like that. That always seem to leave the TARDIS unlocked.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Doctor's gone before. They always used to lock it because you used to stay with the key, lock the door. But these always seem to leave it and people just wander in.
It's because it's a family, and he's a dad, and dads, they just go home and then they leave the door open for their kids, and the kids run around in the neighborhood and then come back. That's what it is. Peter Davison is the ultimate father figure, and these are his kids. It's dad skills.
He's got an answer for everything. I just don't.
Okay, well, remember that the cast, except for Turlo, was in the last 2 Tom Baker stories, Legopolis and all that. But that was also Adric as well. As far as Dad, I don't know. It seemed like maybe they were more brother type of thing, or they also had Adric and the Doctor and Tegan and the Doctor squabbling more than Nyssa. And that was also interesting how Nyssa, even though she doesn't have a lot to do, does sort of remind people how illogical they are in a way.
Yeah, he's scientifically minded.
Yeah, so I mean, isn't she the one that is sort of, wondering if it is the Doctor and stuff like that? And even the Brigadier is wondering a little bit. Like I said, it's a good concept. They could have done it a little better. Maybe they could have cut down a story. It's an interesting idea.
So what score would you give it, Alex?
Well, like I said, the cast is good. It's not the fault of the cast. It's a good effort. That was the other question I had, is that somehow the Doctor was able to sort of make the Brigadier think about the time in the TARDIS. So I don't know if that was musical in a way and they didn't want to admit it, or if he hypnotized him in some way. Of course, not in a negative way, but
You will obey me.
no, that's the Master. Which that also reminds, now that we mentioned Time Flight, you don't need the Master in every story. Anyway,
And the other thing,
We are doing Mawdryn Undead today, so
yeah.
and the Black Guardian tried to hypnotize, but
So yeah, and I mean that's the other amazing thing, is that he had a wonderful voice too.
Yes.
Very powerful.
very powerful. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you something as well. They do have a new Black Guardian in the Big Finish audios,
Oh,
played by David Troughton,
David Troughton, yeah.
and his voice is booming and marvelous, just like Valentine's was.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll give this it's tough because like I said, the cast is good, the concept's good, but the execution isn't that good. And it was also made a long time ago where they didn't have all the if they had made this now, it probably would have looked wonderful all the way around.
Yeah, 93, what can we do?
Yeah. So I'll give this a begrudging 8.5. But yeah, something's not quite right with it. Somehow it's not as wonderful as it should be. And this is also a season where they're harking back to, Unit or Tom Baker or the 60s. They're sort of going backwards.
Then when you think about it,
I mean, with the, yeah.
it is one of Peter Davison's better ones when you think of like Time Flight and some of his real, like he's got real clunkers, hasn't he?
Well, again,
Four to Doomsday. I mean, he's got some real clunkers. I mean,
well, I like that, but that also had a good actor in it. Unfortunately, under a lot of makeup.
Arc of Infinity. I mean, he's got a few clunkers.
Well, that's the one with the Time Lords as well. But then you go
Yeah.
back to the Fifth Doctor, and guess who's there? The Brigadier and the Master. Again, guys, new villains. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, again, it's tough too because apparently they had a very big production schedule as well. It's not like the Doctor Who now that you're lucky if you get a full season and then you have a year in between. This is also the era where they were how many weeks were they on? Like 40 weeks or whatever. They're on a long time.
20. I think they did 26.
Like this
episodes,
cast.
26 episodes per season, something like that.
Yeah, but that's a lot, especially in the old days. And then if you cut it into 4 parts, that makes it longer. Whereas, even if you cut it into 2 parts, that would be a long schedule anyway. I mean, there's a lot of TV shows now, they don't do that anymore, unless it's a soap opera or something like that. But like I said, nowadays you're lucky if you get, even 12 episodes. And how many were there a year?
Roughly around about 26 episodes per season.
Yeah, so I mean, there's almost no TV show that does that now.
Right, over to Susan then.
All right. Well, because it's got Nicholas Courtney in it.
Why did we even bother asking you? I know
Yeah, there's no point, Lee. But moving on.
I mean, he didn't like the hat. He didn't like the
wasn't he? I was in the documentary. He's really paranoid about his bald patch, isn't he? That he's got on the top of the back of his head. Yeah, he's really yeah.
So he likes this kit, but he doesn't like that kit, and he would rather it all be this costume and stuff. But he's just brilliant anyway. I adore this Mawdryn Undead. Anything with 2 Brigadiers, I'll have to give it 20 because there are 2 Brigadiers and 2 10s. So yeah, that's my score.
Well, hold on, only 20. Is that what you're giving it?
2 10s. The
Have
Brigadier
100.
is a total 10. And what are you doing? What is this shaking your head business?
That's no good. I'm disappointed. I thought it'd be higher than that.
All right, well, whatever, Alad.
And
I can't please you. I'm here only to please him and him.
At who? Lee? Ethan? Who are you pointing at?
This one, the Brigadier.
Oh, the 2 Brigadiers.
Yeah.
Oh,
I thought she was pointing at you, Lee. You definitely don't please Lee.
This went off the rails quite a long time ago, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Let's move on. We'll leave Susan with her mop and bucket, and we'll go over to Ethan.
Yeah.
Haha.
I'm going to give this one. I think I would give it a 7 out of 10, to be honest, just because it is a good concept. If they executed it better, I would have given it a higher score, but I'm going to stick with a 7 for this one.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Right. Brian. Yes.
Yeah.
What?
Give us a number.
I believe I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10, Lee.
All right.
An 8 out of 10, Lee. So
Yeah. So that's 8. What was that? 7 from Ethan.
Yep, 7.
God knows from Susan. We're still
Only 8.5 from Alex.
now from Alex, yeah, and we're still trying to figure out your score, Susan, but we'll get back to that. And Alec, what do you say?
I'm conflicted between a 7 and an 8. So I think I'm going to go in at a 7.5. And the reason being is because when I think about Peter Davison's era, there are some really bad ones, like I've listed. There's quite a few bad ones, to be honest, the Peter Davison era. I can see him right down there. The King's Demons, that's not particularly interesting, is it? Time Flight is awful. Four to Doomsday is awful. Castra Valva's not even that great. I'm not a big fan of that either. but you know, he has some really good stories, like The Visitation. Earthshock. You know, Caves of Andizani. He has some great ones, but this one's not great, but it's not awful. So I think 7.5. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't have to say anything because I was going to go 7.5 as well. It's not a great one, as Ali said, but it's not as bad as some of his others. Oh, here we go. Yeah, go on.
That's a nasty cough you got there, Susan.
It is quite a good story.
Do you know what? Because the Brigadier, can I just say, because Susan's a big fan of the Brigadier, and because the Brigadier's in it, and I do like the Brigadier, and I'm a big fan of the Brigadier,
Yes.
I'm going to give it a 2.
I knew that was coming.
2 for 2 Brigadiers.
2 for 2 Brigadiers.
And I think because of the Brigadiers, and I'm going to probably change my score to a 0.
Oh!
In fact, yeah, I'm going minus. No, I'm not.
Minus 2. Minus 2 Brigadiers.
No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding, Susan. Jeez.
No, I'm going to stick with 7.5 on mine. It's as I say, the concept's there, but it's the way they've done it for me.
But it's watchable, isn't it? You can sit down and you can watch it and you can enjoy it.
It's not too long. It doesn't drag. But as I say, it's just, I don't know, it doesn't gel in some parts. And I can say about most of the Davison stories.
Again, I just thought of something. Isn't this one of the few Doctor Who stories where there's barely any running? Is that what it is? They needed more running?
Well, they couldn't really run about me. Look how old Nicholas Courtney is, and Valentin Dahl. They can't run.
And they didn't need running because they had a car chase scene at the beginning, and they didn't need.
It wasn't a car
running
chase
because it wasn't Mel in that spaceship. It was this other TARDIS team.
Susan, it wasn't a car chase scene.
All right, there wasn't somebody
Just
chasing.
some driving.
Yeah.
They weren't even driving that quickly. I mean, how he went off the road, I don't know.
And did you notice when they went off the road, they were down a country lane?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And when the car was in the field, there was houses opposite.
There was houses. Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah.
Where did the houses appear from?
The magic of television.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it's like he has no bruises and his coat's not damaged or anything like that. I mean, that really annoyed me. He's lying in that hospital bed, like in perfect. Nothing's wrong with him.
Yeah.
And the color is so messed up. And
he doesn't even have a little bit of blood on his nose, or
And for the Black Guardian to be one of the most powerful evil forces in the universe, to pick Taylor.
I know it does seem.
Mm-hmm.
It does seem quite random when it happened, though, didn't it? It does seem very random.
Very random, and I don't know.
I agree with that one. It was random.
Why couldn't he have picked? Why couldn't he have picked a planet destroyer, someone else who was really evil, to go do the job for him?
Omega?
Well, no, I don't know.
Yeah, Omega maybe.
I think they should have picked the Brigadier. This way he could have been evil to take over everything.
Ooh, evil Brigadier. There's an idea.
I think that scene with the.
I like that. Oh,
yeah,
like
but
that one in Inferno. Ooh.
Yeah, but in New Who, the scene with the car chase, and then, well, no, it's not a car chase, but the scene with the car accident when he gets in the car and he drives off in the car and then he has the accident, and then the Black Guardian comes. That would then be the cliffhanger when he says, I've got a job for you. I want you to kill the doctor and that. That would then be the cold opener, I think. That'd be where it then goes into the title sequence.
It just didn't seem. There was no reason for him to pick Taylor.
Yeah, that's the problem with it. It just seems very random. That was the problem with that bit.
It doesn't go that well. That's what I keep saying. It's just. But hey, we've wrung it dry now.
But they had to. They just wanted to force the Black Guardian in and then have an evil. Well, not and
have Turlo try and go aboard.
So, guys, I think it's time we put Mawdryn to rest.
Oh,
He is no more.
oh
He's
it's so upsetting.
He is
It's so upsetting.
He was an ex-Mawdryn. He was pushing up the daisy
He's expired and gone to meet his mate.
in the sky.
No, he's really pining for the fjords.
Mawdryn.
It's emotional.
He's really pining for the fjords. He's just resting.
Just resting, yeah. Guys, thanks for joining. It's always good to have a laugh and talk what we like. You know what we like.
And I like the Brigadier.
Oh God! Right? Can we just make it clear? Susan likes the Brigadier.
A lot.
And if anybody out there disagrees, she will be going around there and putting a bat up your night dress.
I don't like the Brigadier.
Yeah, the Brigadier is awful human being.
Yeah, right.
5 rounds rapid. I've got a bullet for all of you.
Right, you guys out there, we know you know who you are. Share, because Share still watches.
Share watches this all the time. This is her favorite thing to watch.
Ring the bell. Ring the bell.
Ring the bell, Share. Please leave a comment below if you believe that we are doing the right thing. You see what I did there? Share, believe. Never mind.
But you've got to be strong enough.
You have to be.
You've got to be strong enough.
Yeah.
Just like Vicky James.
Yep.
A bunch of gypsies, tramps, and thieves, for crying out loud.
Do it now because you can't turn back
Turn
time.
back time. Yeah.
I'm going to have to leave you now. I'm going to have to leave you soon because I've got a heart of stone and I've got to carry on and do the stuff. So.
I thought you said because I'm having a heart attack. I thought that's what he's going to say. I'm going to have to leave you now because I'm having a heart attack.
Dial 999. Some bloke in Hull is having a
Anyway, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're everywhere. Please, if you want to join us, send us a message. I mean, look, you can see what fun we have. Even when
we're on the back of the toilet doors. Just ring the number.
Yeah, the number's there.
Yeah. You'll go straight through to Ethan.
Is this Geeks Assembled? Yes.
Tell us your fantasies. Tell us your fantasies about the Brigadier below and the other Brigadier.
And that'll be Phil
speaking. I'll pass you on to Susan.
Now you've said that, Susan will be leaving all them comments now.
Susan should create fan fiction of the 2 Brigadiers.
2 Brigadiers.
Yeah.
I think we should end it now because.
Good night, everybody.
Mate. Oh, he does go old matron, doesn't he?
Old matron.
Yeah, old matron. Yeah.
Matron.
Yeah.
Matron.
Yes. It's something.
So I'm going to leave the final word. Everybody else is going to be quiet. I'm going to leave the final word to Susan.
Oh, God.
Blinovitch limitation effect.
Ooh, matron.